and welcome to another episode of Who Gives a Hoot. I'm Luke. That's John, Braden, Kyle, and whichever direction. It's final week, so we're all overhyped, underslept. Now, probably, if you're like me, a bundle of nerves. So we got the decision of who we're facing. Spokane. Best option, worst option.
I mean, I prefer them to Madison.
I mean, I think everybody at Werner Park prefers them to Madison. Just the headaches.
I mean, every time we play against Spokane at home, we score 4 past them. So let's score 4 more again.
Yeah. I mean, our home record against them is impeccable.
It is, but also they just went out and beat the 2 seed and the 3 seed back to back. So
that NOCO game was such an anomaly for the last 2 months. The Madison game.
Hold on.
We were
we have to acknowledge NOCO RIP.
Oh yeah, rip.
Or are they? They've got Nisa vibes written all over them.
Yeah,
that or MLS Next Pro is going to sweep in somehow.
Oh, them and Michigan Stars deserve each other. That ownership group is still there.
Really, if MLS Next Pro
Zaya doesn't.
Move,
Zaya doesn't deserve
Michigan
it. Those
Stars
players
move down. Didn't Michigan Stars move down to Midwest Premier League?
They have a reserve side, I believe.
I don't know. House did, didn't they? Chicago House.
Yeah.
Yeah, House did.
But it's sad. It's sad to see them. It's sad to see them go because they're one of our closest teams. And
yeah,
it sucks that they are just bankrupt as crap.
Well, the players and technical staff there, they all deserve so much better. They really put together a good squad. It's not just because of where they're located, but just because of how they performed in the league. It's tough for them.
It was a baseball value add gone wrong. Like they weren't able
more than that.
An organic baseball ad because the baseball team came at the same time. It wasn't just baseball people trying to make money with soccer. They tried to do both at the same time, and it's really wild.
Well,
how
they
it all
were
worked
they
out.
were relocating a franchise for baseball
Mm-hmm.
that prior to the minor league shrink, and they were baseball people trying to do soccer.
You're going to see this a lot. Like I said, you're going to see this a lot more with a lot more minor league baseball teams that are independently owned as opposed to being affiliated with major league teams. That's how it's going to work.
Well, besides the point, Spokane.
So back to Spokane.
Yeah,
they did beat NOCO RIP. So 3-0, which was quite impressive. And then they also went to Madison, and I would say, I mean, I don't know best opportunities, but they had opportunities, and then they took penalties and beat them in penalties, which their keeper has a record for saving penalties in playoffs.
They definitely were the better side in the second half of that game. We got to watch the second half after we were done celebrating our semifinal win and taking care of everything we need to take care of. And it looked like based on the highlights we saw from the first half that maybe Madison were the better side in the first half, not in the second half. That Spokane definitely put together more chances, but I would say it was not as lively as our first half was, which hopefully we could segue to that.
Yeah.
Well, looking at Spokane's record, over the past few games, prior to playoffs, like it's not been a great record.
Oh, it was bad going into the playoffs. Yeah, that's why it was such a surprise when they won.
Yeah. NOCO was their first win in about 2 months.
Yeah. Easily the worst team going into the playoffs, with Richmond looking like the team that would be the most likely out of the 2 bottom seeds to actually advance, given Spokane's not great form. My only comment is the biggest change for them was they kind of changed their formation to be a more compact 4-4-2. And just essentially they're playing simple ball. We're going to play it as is. We're going to be, I don't know what the other word to describe it. Just play the most basic game we can and just grind it out, which they were able to do against Madison pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, I don't see advancing off of pens as something that we particularly should be worrying about, because Union Omaha's goal is to wrap it up in 90. Like we're set to not make the same mistakes we did last year, where we let the game grind on. We have the pieces in place to drive it home in that 90 and not have to deal with it going to PKs. Because I think the last thing any of the players want is this to end 0-0 and deal with the extra time and the PKs. I'm not sure, or especially with this new format, not having a rest week or anything, that guys are well enough rested to really deal with that.
I mean, if we do want to talk a little bit about then our game against Greenville, we were able to stop it going late. We were able to kind of find out the end there after we took a lead, which, I really liked our response to going down a goal really early in the game. We put so much pressure on them the back half of that first half, and thankfully found a goal, because it's one of those situations where we've kind of done it before, where if we don't find with that sustained period of pressure, I worry about us not finding one the rest of the game. So I was glad that we were able to get one before half, so that it actually paid off the chances that we were having.
Yeah, I definitely think going into the locker room down a goal would have changed the entire second half of the game. I don't feel like as much of it would have really been coming out with something to fight for as much.
But it definitely would have been a thing, because we were gassed after about the 70th minute. It was, you could tell there were heavy legs defending. I liken it to when Rocky beat Clubber Lang in the rematch in Rocky 3. You could just tell after Rocky knocked him out that he wasn't going to go much further. He had to throw haymaker after haymaker, and it's just like, I hope Clubber Lang doesn't get up at 10. And it's that kind of had some of those vibes. I think we weren't fortunate not to give up a goal. The guys defended, played their ass off, and kept the ball out. But it looked like they were huffing.
Well, it was an interesting match to me. Like, just looking stats wise, in Fought Mob stats, so they're hopefully a little better than league, but not necessarily. Greenville won on possession, the 56% possession, but they took a total of 5 registered shots, only 2 on target, versus our 22 shots with 8 on target. Like, gassed or not, like, our game was more containment than anything.
Well, Well, wait, how many shots was that again? We had 22. How many?
We had 8 on target for 22. If I remember correctly, we had 14 in the first half.
But then how many did they have?
In the whole game?
5 shots, 2 on target.
And that's still some of that creep and some of that issue, though, right? From Charlotte, where we had 30-some shots last year in the playoffs and then didn't score, right? So at least we're scoring, and that's great. But there's still that potential, right? Taking a bunch of shots and they're not going in.
Well, do you think that has anything to do with the lineup?
I think not having Steven does. And we did not have Steven. And it seems like we've been trying to save Steven for the final and see how much he can go, which who knows how much.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is that I know we keep on like Charlotte PTSD, and I still have it too. But just the way this team has played during the 2 playoff matches, we both games got a goal in the second half. We are both even at half, whether it be 1-1 or 0-0. I think just in general, doesn't matter how we play in the first half, we're going to make the adjustments we're going to need to in the second half to make us successful down to 90. Obviously, I think it's going to be a bit better if we break down Spokane right away, get a goal, get it early, make them chase the game, because that's where we shine, when we can actually counter, get the passing lanes down, whatnot. But if we go up to 70 minutes, I still feel a lot better this year than last year, simply because I feel like we're gonna go for it. This team knows that we need to go for a goal, no matter what time, no matter what the situation is. We got to figure it out, and so far they've been pretty good at figuring out how to get there.
I feel like we have. I feel like our options off the bench this late in the season are better than they were last year.
Yeah.
Like if we're weak in one spot, we have the options to change up the pace, change up tactics coming off the bench that we didn't have against Charlotte last year.
I think we do miss a little bit Dion Akoff.
Yes.
Though I will say, Gallardo having become our right wing back was not something that I had considered coming into the season, but he has, right?
That was his best game at the position too last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think last week was probably our best lineup we ever put out in terms of performance and in terms of how everybody fit into it and how they played into it. If we played that lineup minus Zico Lewis, who is on international duty, unfortunately, and we put in Steven, or we just shake it up a little bit, I'd say we're pretty much golden.
I don't know. I always have a little bit of worry for Misael because he loves coming in with the 2-footed challenge. He loves them. Every time I see him do it, I just like cringe a little bit and just be like, "Oh God, what are you doing? What are you doing?"
So I wonder if maybe that means Brandon Knapp comes in and kind of takes Joe's spot and lets Joe move up.
I think that'd be. That. I mean, he's the Swiss Army knife of the season.
Yeah, he's very much got that Emir Lihadzic 2021 kind of vibe with him. He might be better. He might be one of your best 11, but he's so valuable off the bench because of what you can do after he subs on. He can either sub on for somebody, or you can move people around based on who he goes on for, who else is around him. And he can take on specific roles based on that.
I think Knapp would be the straightforward choice, but are we wanting to go that route there, or are we going to come on, instead of putting in a Swiss Army knife, just change up the tactics a little bit more, something that they're not expecting, throw either more attack or bunker down more, wear them down?
If I was doing this right now, I would set up in a more defensive, at least the first 15, 20 minutes, because that's not what Spokane's going to expect at this point. They've gotten into this rhythm of, yeah, we're going to have you attack and we're going to just counter on you if we can, and we're going to grind this out. I think just having a little bit of confusion on what these guys are going to do in the first 20, 30 minutes, if we come out like that, I'm sure we're probably going to get much better press because they're not going to be prepared for that. That's would be my thought, more or less. Give them the ball, have them show their cards.
I don't think that's the wrong way to look at it. What worries me is Spokane's come in, lost twice at Werner Park, which lost by, as you've mentioned earlier, a wide margin at Werner Park, giving up 4 goals each time they visited. If they've not spent more time trying to perfect how to play there and are going to come in a lot more tactically sound, with more of an axe to grind, not just it being a final, but the fact they haven't defended well, they haven't played particularly well on a small pitch like Werner Park.
I mean, at the end of the day, we'll play our lineup, they'll play their lineup. I mean,
this is a podcast. We're supposed to know exactly what's going to happen.
Hey, if you want to give my answer, we're going to win, and if we score first, we're probably in a better position than they are. But I mean, so if I really want to give my honest opinion, Spokane can't score on us. They just can't. I don't think they're going to score no-code levels unless this is a weird thing, because that's just not what we do. We don't allow that. Madison didn't allow it. Clearly, I don't think we're going to allow it. I think we still have the better chance each half to score either way. It's just a matter of, is Spokane bringing their A game today? Is this their day? I think for us, we probably have it a little bit better. But even then, that confidence is just, well, we're first, they're 7th. But either way, I can't say anything. It is what it is. It's a final. No one knows what's going to happen.
They have beaten us twice, so like I'm not saying that I'm not confident either. Like it's a game that us being the Shield winners, we should be winning, but they beat us twice. Yes, it was away. In one of those games, talking about not scoring, we gave them goals. We might have done it in both games. We definitely did in the second one. We just gave them a goal. So if we do that again, sorry, go ahead.
That first game was the weekend after Sporting, where we went 120 minutes and tried to beat an MLS side. That was definitely not the best we could have given, and we still almost drew them. They scored in like the 4th minute of stoppage time. I think that was a league game. The second game was a cup game, but I won't discount.
No. First game was cup, and the second game was league.
Yes. And wait, no, was it? Are we sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I
we
can look
faced
at
them twice in the cup before we faced them in the league.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say because like not discounting their second win against us at all, because we put our best squad out there and we were bad that day.
Mm-hmm. And that's so it's something that can happen, right? We can make a mistake. We've shown that this season. I hope we won't, and I think if we don't, we have the tools to beat them. But it's just a worry that I have, and I'm a bit on the pessimistic front at times too. So that's probably part of
it. The other thing to note, like, where normally in a season you're facing the teams, you could have months between a win and a loss. Teams could really have changed. Both times we played them, 4 weeks had passed, and then went a different entire route. Like the first 2 games we had were May 11th, June 13th. Lose the first game against them, win the second one, and then September, October, where lose the first one, win the second. So it's not that we won games later in the season or earlier in the season. There, to Kyle's point, we have lost 2 games, and it's not at the same time in the season we lost 2 games against them. It's very different styles. We had different players in both those matches. We had PC for the first game and not for the second time we lost against them. Same for the both wins. Like, they've got something going there that can be very dangerous to us.
Yeah, it's a final. Flip a coin.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big stage. We've only had, technically 2 players, right? Because Blake as well as Shido, though I don't think Blake played in the final at all.
He didn't. 21. I'm not even sure he was on the bench.
Yeah. So it's mostly Shido who's got that experience. They've had some players. Their goalkeeper has also played in a final and won penalties. So we have some experience both ways, but not a ton, right? Not a ton, at least as far as a final goes.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see who steps up.
It definitely will. You want to do score predictions?
Nope.
Can I just say we'll put 4 past them like we do at home all the time?
You cannot.
I mean, let's just say we score 4 goals.
Blake was on the bench for the final.
Warner Park Dinosaurs, do not listen to Braden. He is a charlatan. He is not the true.
Hey, I got the score prediction last week, right?
We gotta pray to the. We gotta bow to the dinosaurs.
Yeah, we gotta sacrifice the keg.
All right. Well, I think we can go over the league news a little bit. It was announced, we're recording this on Thursday, earlier today, officially announced that USL League One will be without 2 clubs next year. Northern Colorado, as we've already said, and Fuego, which has
the other half of our Jaeger Cup group.
Yes. 2 Western teams dropping out. Fuego's, granted, they finished dead last, but was kind of an interesting one. That ownership group seemed very committed, but they're not folding as a club. They are.
I'm just thinking of this for Fuego. how much of it might be that the owner wants to back Jermaine Jones to coach?
I was thinking
and
more
the
along the
USL
lines.
doesn't want that.
I was thinking, well, if they're not professional, then why would Jermaine Jones be interested? I was thinking more along the lines of the stadium. I think, don't forget, they were they had to cap capacity at 1,000 because of fire code regulations, I think, per the county, and
yeah,
it seemed like that they did not have an answer for the stadium for next year, which it looks like all across the USL, the league is taking that seriously.
Yeah.
Because is that the Memphis situation too?
Yeah, it sounds like that's why Santa Barbara went ahead and kind of just garage sale bought them.
Yeah. Speaking of stadium for Fuego, they are taking out the stands that Fuego were installed specifically for Fuego. So yeah, that was kind of like big, like, oh, you're clearly folding. You're not going to be here next year. So
well, and it's possible. I have no idea what Fresno State uses that field for still, if they do, but it's possible that they decided, hey, we're doing these modifications, and oh, by the way, like, nobody's playing here next year, and it's what can you do if you're a tenant at that point?
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, it was their best option, or else it would have been somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, they're not going the OKC route either. They're not like going on a hiatus. They're like, no, we're going to go play in a different league.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they're going to be amateur,
release
just
from
not
the league was interesting because it went more in depth on NOCO, covered more there, and then almost as an afterthought, it was Fuego and USL have parted ways.
Well, NOCO's because they're on the other end of a lawsuit. Fuego, yes. I think was just a I don't know. I think the only thing was that the fact that they said that it was amicable makes it sound like maybe Fuego wanted to try and stay in and go League 2, and for whatever reason there was some specification they couldn't meet for League 2. So I have a feeling that Fuego's back next year somewhere amateur level.
Yeah, I could definitely see them there. Yeah, the mutual decision to part ways, or whether it was a financial decision, they weren't able to get ownership to meet qualifications, or any number of reasons, just kind of leaves us.
There's obviously a bridge still there that the league didn't want to burn, or else we saw in the very same statement they would be willing to burn it.
I mean, I think NOCO burnt it themselves on that one.
The USL or press release states the USL has terminated Northern Colorado Hailstorm FC's franchise agreement. The decision reflects our commitment to uphold the standards of our organization and protect the interests of our club's ownership. So, yeah, seems like the board of governors for the league kind of may have made that decision for them.
Yeah,
like they're making us all look bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, they definitely were. But in other more positive news, we can go out to Portland, where former assistant coach Bobby Murphy is now the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is. Bobby Murphy also announced today to take over head coach and sporting director duties at Hearts of Pine SC. So, congratulations to Bobby.
Good for all parties there. Happy for everybody.
Yeah. What I hadn't realized is he apparently coached at University of Southern Maine for a season. Knew he'd gone to Southern New Hampshire, but has some ties there. Fantastic coach. I know when Mims left, he was one we were hoping would kind of take on the head coach duties here, but decided to go to St. Louis too, where he did a great job with that program. So very exciting move for both parties there. It seems like the 5 clubs still planning to come in 25 are all well on their way. Should be expecting to see more announcements here in the next coming months, which we'll cover in the off season. It's always good to have some off season news to go over. But other than that, you got a final, boys. So everybody, bring your layers because it could be a long one.
We'll see.
I can't do this again.
Looking like between low mid 50s for the high.
Okay. Oh yeah, because Saturday would have been better weather, but yeah.
Saturday would have been very windy though. At least it's looking that way so far.
Okay. So we'll see.
Yeah,
let's hope. Hopefully it's nicer. Speaking of Charlotte game from last year, hopefully it's nicer than that. As long as it's nicer than that.
I think the last 2 weekends we've gotten pretty lucky with the amount of rain we were getting beforehand, and it just broke very nicely into the pregame and into the game itself. So I think we're gonna get lucky again.
Well, here's hoping in all regards. But all right, guys, one last question for you. Who gives a hoot? We do.
We do.